I call it a little bit like the goldfish generation. Everyone is kind of, asking for your attention. So it has to be, you get 2 seconds of your customers, attention, you need to capture it.
Hello and welcome to Coffee and Conversation here on BTCN. I'm your host, Shashank Bengali, and I'm here with Manvi Kathuria. She's the GM for Asia Pacific for e-commerce at Luxasia. Manvi, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So you've just spoken about the topic of building brands in the e-commerce space. Tell us a bit about what that means to you.
So in the last few years, we've seen an explosive growth of platforms like Lazada, Shopee, Zalora, and all the likes. In Southeast Asia, it's still new, in the Western world. In China, of course, it's, miles ahead. So here, I think it gets a little bit challenging to navigate that space. It's still quite fragmented. Southeast Asia is spoken about as one region, but actually, Indonesia is very different from Malaysia, from Thailand, and, languages are different. So how do you actually navigate that space? And if you're a brand, what does that mean to you? And how can you actually use this new channel to take your brand to the next level and tap into that next kind of customer base that exists there?
And so what differences do you see across various countries in the region? You've got Singapore, small and relatively wealthy. You've got Indonesia, massive and growing. Are there some commonalities across borders?
Different markets are also at different stages in their e-commerce journey. So when we talk about Southeast Asia, Indonesia today is basically half of that. So all the countries combined, equal to Indonesia. So that market is massive. The growth is also one of the highest that we'll see in Indonesia. What is also true there is that you don't have, that much credit card penetration. It's mostly, cash on delivery. People have still not opened up, buying premium brands online. While in Singapore, it's, a smaller market, but it's a great, test bed for kind of building up, the business there and tie in cross-channel, marketing in Singapore where, people are still shopping offline but want, consistent experience online and offline.
So you're working with major established brands like Bulgari, Elizabeth Arden. What are the expectations that these major multinational brands have when coming into markets like Indonesia, Singapore?
Right. So I think it's actually a dual objective for some of them, to go online. So first is customer acquisition. So as a percentage, e-commerce is still not, a big or majority portion of the business, but it is the majority kind of channel where they acquire the next generation of customers. So the tier 2, tier 3 cities where they may not have, their physical stores, how do you actually tap into that customer? And the second is actually to gain back control of their brand presence online. So the flip side of not going online is that someone else will, which means that a grey market seller or resellers kind of will start selling your products at highly discounted prices, and they start kind of damaging the brand equity as well. So a lot of them would go online just to give a consistent experience to the customer, especially for brands like Bulgari and Ferragamo.
And you mentioned that they're maybe working at a different price point, for example, in certain markets. So is that part of the calculation? What products they decide to market in which markets?
Exactly, yeah. So in markets like Indonesia, or if you're new to any market, you would probably want to start off with, trying sampling or giving free shipping to people, or starting with your mini size products. So the price point is accessible, but you're not necessarily discounting the brand per se. And then you, over time, you want to kind of build up their basket size and, get them to come back to buy the full size or the more premium range eventually, yeah.
Broadly, what are the changing trends you see in terms of digital and social marketing for luxury brands in the last 5 or 10 years?
Right. So I think digital and social marketing has been used, it's quite a broad term, and I don't think a lot of the brands have properly understood what that means for them in the markets yet. Sometimes I've seen brands kind of chasing the wrong KPIs or, just trying to get impressions or traffic, which actually doesn't convert into anything. So I think the most important thing is to first understand your customer, who is your customer, and take control of their journey. So through your CRM and digital marketing, efforts. The second is focus on content. So content online is basically your show window, in an offline store. That's how the customer is experiencing you for the first time. And then the third is that tie it into your overall marketing strategy. You can't look at digital and social marketing as, kind of disjointed from your overall marketing strategy. So it should be the same marketing manager kind of speaking to all the different channels, and you kind of keep that consistent.
We keep hearing that customers in this market, in Southeast Asia, have leapfrogged from the desktop, for example, right to mobile. So is the marketing different when you are targeting a customer on their phone versus online or on their desktop?
Absolutely. So I think on your on your mobile phones, people are usually browsing across social media, reading articles. I call it a little bit like the goldfish generation. Everyone is kind of asking for your attention. So it has to be you get 2 seconds of your customers attention. You need to capture it. Obviously, apart from the technical things, like it has to be responsive on mobile. The experience or user flow has to be consistent. But also in terms of what your message is, it needs to go right across, because they're not browsing for hours on a desktop, but you really have to capture them right away.
And are there tech solutions that you see coming down the line that could help address some of these needs?
So there's a lot of tech solutions out there in the market for marketing, for CRM, for your backend and ERP. The key is to really have a seamless, integrated kind of investment at the back. So whichever player you use, at the end of the day, is your CRM system talking to your ERP, to your OMS system, to your POS systems at the end of the day, that interact with the customer. Once that is integrated, you give yourself the flexibility and agility to grow, because customers are going to start shopping in different ways, and your systems at the back need to be seamlessly integrated to have that flexibility as the definition of retail changes as we move forward.
Do you think overall customers in the region are comfortable shopping for luxury products online as well?
It's opening up. I mean, just in the last 3 years, I've seen from it going from, say, 1% of the business to now 5%, 8%, and it's going to be 15-20% of the business. And like I said, the next generation of customer that will give them that lifetime value is online, is on social media, and there's no kind of going back from there. The one thing I want to kind of add there is, even if the customer is not shopping, online, or finally they are searching, so they would have checked the reviews, they would have seen what their friend is wearing, So a lot of the decision is informed based on what they're seeing online. So there's no option not to be present there in the right way.
So boutiques would still play a role, but the
Yes.
way you reach the customer is in their palm.
So boutiques they need to kind of ramp up the experience element for the customer. So like I said, attention, everyone's trying to grab the customer's attention. So brands need to go where the customer's attention is versus customers going where the brands used to exist, in the past. So you need to be ready with great content and an experience for the customer if you are offline.
Thanks, Manvi. Thanks very much. That's all the time we have on Shashank Bengali for Coffee and Conversation on BTCN. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.